Hi everyone, isn't it a great day? And we're going to make it even better in just a bit. This is Pranjali extending a warm welcome to all of you. We have people joining in from the US, the UK, India, Australia, Middle East. Wow, this is quite exciting. Thank you for taking the time to attend our webinar, Designing e-Learning for iPads and Other Tablets. So without much ado, let me introduce you to the speakers. Amit Garg, Director of Custom Learning Solutions and co-founder of iLearning, and Alan Samuel, Director Client Solutions Europe, Upside Learning. Amit and Alan, over to you.
Thanks, Pranjali.
Thanks, Pranjali.
And greetings to everyone who has joined in. Thank you very much. We do appreciate your time. I hope you can hear us clearly. If you can't, just let us know in the chat window, and we can do something about it. Before we begin, some quick housekeeping things for you. We'll be recording this webinar, so the recording would be available in a day's time. And if you have any questions, you can certainly type them in the question window in the control panel that you can see, probably on your right top of the screen. Any questions that we answer would be going out to everyone. So just keep that in mind, that questions that we answer would be seen by everyone. If you have any private questions, you can of course get in touch with us separately, or if you want to mention in that question, we'll not answer that over here today. And of course, any questions that we can't answer today, we'll put them on our blog so that everybody can refer to them later on. Brilliant. Okay, so let me quickly start our webinar today by introducing Upside Learning. Of course, my name is Amit Garg. As I finally said, I'm Director of Custom Learning Solutions at Upside Learning. I've been in the e-learning domain for about 12 odd years, and last few years have been largely evangelizing mobile learning adoption, which has been very exciting. Alan, any quick word from you to introduce yourself?
Yeah, just hi and good afternoon, everybody from the UK. Like Amit said, glad you could make the time to join us, and I think we've got some very interesting slides ahead of us. Feel free to jump in and ask questions wherever you can, and I'm going to try and keep up and answer them. But yeah, ready to go. Back to you, Amit.
Brilliant. Thanks, Alan. Okay. A quick background about Upside Learning, just so that you know where we're coming from. We started in 2004 in Pune, India, which still is our headquarters and the development center. We have a sales office, and of course our biggest market as UK. Alan is based in UK. Some of our other key markets are US, Australia, Middle East, and we kind of have now got about 165 odd clients in 13 different countries. In terms of what we do, we provide a multi-award-winning learning management system called Upside LMS. We have a mobile learning product called Upside to Go, which is essentially native apps for iOS, BlackBerry, and Android phones, and of course tablets. And we do a lot of bespoke e-learning and mLearning development work. Very proud, we've won more than about 30 awards and recognition for our products and services and the company in general. We've also been actively supporting research initiatives with bodies like ASTD and Towards Maturity, ASTD in the US and Towards Maturity in the UK. Our intent has been to bring out some independent research in this area, which helps organizations take more informed decisions and really get on course with mobile learning adoption. So that's quickly about us. That's the agenda for today. We'll dive into seeing why we're talking about tablets. Are they so important, especially in the workplace learning scenario? And we'll try and see how they are unique or similar to the other devices that we are already using in our enterprise. Then we look at why e-learning on tablets. I understand some of you may be kind of thinking it in a different way, and we'll cover that. And then we'll take on designing e-learning for tablets, which is essentially a few frameworks and a few points on essentially design considerations that one should keep in mind when we're delivering e-learning on tablets. Okay, so if I can start with the first poll question, which will be launched for you just now, which is how much e-learning do you deliver on tablets as of now? Of course, the options are very simple ones: none, a little, few but selected courses, and all your e-learning is also being delivered on tablets. If you could take a few moments to about 66% people have voted, which is brilliant, and we'll get another 5 seconds or so before we close the poll. Brilliant. If we can close the poll and publish the results. Good. Pretty much on expected lines. 45% people are not doing any e-learning on tablets. Very little, 33%, and 18% doing just a few courses, and 4% doing all their e-learning on tablets, which is very interesting. Alan, any thoughts around this? How does it correlate with what you're seeing in the UK specifically?
Yes, I think it kind of fits the bill. People are now dabbling. They are looking at moving towards tablet learning and specifically using it for field-based employees. But I'm with the 45% who are saying none at the moment. But seriously thinking about it, I hope.
All right. Okay, and we'll then quickly move into our second poll question. We only have two, but we put them at the beginning of the session to just get a sense of where our audience is today. Do you consider e-learning on tablets, and that's what I was referring to when I was talking about the agenda items, do you consider e-learning on tablets to be the same as mLearning? We have about 75% votes in, and we'll give another 5 seconds to it. Brilliant. If we can close, and yes, we have about 42% people saying yes, 38 saying no, and the rest 20 saying not sure, which is quite the reflection of how our clients and people that we interact with think. And there is, of course, a lot of division in opinion about whether e-learning on tablets should be considered mLearning at all. And we have ourselves kind of blogged about it on several occasions, calling it tablet learning and differentiating it from e-learning and mLearning both. But yeah, it's very interesting to see that it's kind of a divided house, and yeah, there are people on the bench, on the fence as well. Alan, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think we've loosely referred to mLearning. Typically, at least in the UK, is always considered using a telephone, and that's where it has been for a number of years. So I think the tablet is changing that perception. But it's certainly viewed currently as not very different. So I think our view is that it is, and hopefully with the end of it, you'll believe so as well.
Brilliant. Okay, let's move on. And I would begin with this statement, which is in a way our firm belief. mLearning is the future of workplace learning. And as you can see, while we are going to talk about tablets, we're beginning with mLearning. And we'll not go into a lot of details about substantiating this claim. We have a few resources which, if you would like, you can access on our website. Of course, this webinar is being recorded, but these URLs are still quite small if you want to quickly note them down. But there's a webinar that we did a few months ago, which was about no escaping mobile learning, almost a very similar theme that has the future and you can't escape it. And then we very recently also published an infographic on a similar theme saying why mobile learning is the future of workplace learning. Both very interesting resources. They actually pack in a lot of information and data points and trends and why we believe mobile learning is going to be the future of workplace learning. But let's use that as our starting point, and let's move on with our webinar and topic for today. Out of all the data that's there in these resources, there's one that really stands out and kind of summarizes about why mobile learning could be or is the future of workplace learning. It took about 40 years for the telephone to reach 40% population, which is typically known as mass adoption. In comparison, it took the phones just about 3 years. That's the magnitude of difference between the mobile phone and any other technology, and it's been considered, as you would have obviously read and learned in many ways, one of the most disruptive technologies ever. And it is going to disrupt the way we learn and we train our executives and stuff. And this is just one data point that I want to bring in. Of course, there is a lot of information in those two resources. Okay, so if mobile learning is going to be the future, why are we discussing tablets? Quite simply, the growth of tablets and the sales charts, everything has been quite staggering. If you look at this figure, just been kind of moved on to the axis. The y-axis is the point from where the phone, the iPhone and the iPad were launched. If you see the trend over quarters, the first 9-10 quarters, we see the tablet sales are way ahead of smartphone sales in respective quarters from the point of launch. And if you see the between the 7th and the 8th quarter, the gap is just huge. And this trend is actually continuing, and tablets are indeed the fastest ramping mobile device ever. This particular chart from IDC compares tablets to smartphones and feature phones and netbooks, gaming devices, MP3 players, notebooks, e-readers, you name it, everything. And tablets are just moving it at a very, very rapid rate. There has always been this talk about tablets will be replacing PCs sooner or later, and the predictions really has been about 2015 or 16. But now analysts are beginning to predict that it might just happen by the end of 2013 or very early in 2014. And that's really supported by, in a way, the cheaper Android tablets that are being made available everywhere, and the race to really grab market share. So I'm sure you know Kindle is sold for lesser than what it is produced for, because they make up for that money while they're selling all other goods on the device. But yes, within the adopted Android platform devices, you'd see a lot of race happening and cheaper devices being available. And analysts now are actually saying that they can bring ahead this date when the tablets would really sell more than PCs. Interestingly, they're also entering the workplace. Here's a survey that was done by Computing magazine in the UK, which says that about 36%, the sum of these two, 15 and 21 percentages, the 36% people say that they are using tablets more for business than for personal use. Essentially, a lot of business work is getting done on tablets. So amongst the tablet owners, that's how the trend is. Alan, anything specific that you would have noticed in your conversations with your clients which kind of points in this direction?
Yeah, I think again the recognition that here's another opportunity to reach the employee base of the workforce, especially with the remote workforces and again with working from home. So I think there's consideration certainly. There is obviously certain concerns, some being over security, but then again it is no more secure or insecure than a telephone or the BlackBerry. So I think there is certainly a great consideration, and I think we're on the cusp of I think adoption. You've got people like Barclays who've gone on and bought 8,500 iPads. So the indicators are all very positive.
Brilliant. Okay, let's move on to the next section, which is just trying to understand how tablets are unique, or if they are similar to any of the other devices that we have been already using in the enterprise. A lot of people are grappling with this, especially the development community is grappling with this almost, continuous device size that you can get from almost 3.5 inches to 10 inches. There's hardly a gap in between, and we're beginning to see, maybe the phones getting more standardized towards 4 and 5 inches, and tablets maybe between 7 and 9 inches, but only time will tell. You never know if Windows is going to be very successful, and they would probably be focusing on larger tablets because they've gone in for tablet cum PC hybrid. But as of now, if one were to draw a line specifically to understand what tablets are, we would draw a line here, which is at about 7 inches. Anything less than that, a 5.5-inch Note 2 would still qualify from the development and delivery perspective as a phone versus a 7-inch Google Nexus. One of the reasons why we would define this to be the dividing line is the user agent in iPad mini and iPad is essentially the same. The user agent is essentially the feature that tells a web page how to display and how much content to display, and it displays exactly the same content on an iPad mini and an iPad. So essentially it means that the device has been created to give you a full web page displayed on an iPad mini, which is about 7.9 inches. Also, there are reasons which would define how or what a particular device is suitable for, and which would come out usually in context. One of them, we take something like this: you come out of a tube station and you're looking for directions. Chances are that the device that you will pop out is going to be a phone and not a tablet. So essentially saying that a tablet is not going to be useful in all situations and a phone may not be useful in all situations. We can't really create all the scenarios here, but let's look at some of the features that differentiate a tablet from a laptop or a PC and a smartphone. Portability, the most important one, especially when you consider a laptop. Of course, smartphones are the most portable. You can carry them in your pockets, small bag. They're not so heavy. They can even get into your coat pockets. Functionality, and here we are referring to the heavier applications that you can run on different devices. So laptops, of course, would have the highest capability. They are really the workhorses. But yeah, other devices are kind of catching up. Smartphones are becoming dual core and quad core. But it's still, because of the screen area, you would not feel very comfortable doing Office document or an Excel sheet or a full thing over there. But in terms of flexibility and features, that is the sheer number of things that you can do with the device, any of these devices, smartphones would definitely score over the other two. Not that the tablets will not have the features, but some of those features you might actually do more easily on a smartphone or use those features on a smartphone. Availability, now this is where a smartphone is really the champion. They're available everywhere. They are your constant companion. You don't think twice about, taking them with you. It's always there with you. Next to your bedside, even in the loo. Most people confess to using smartphones in washrooms as well. And connectivity, again, with the different options that are available on smartphones, including the Wi-Fi, 3G, and various other connections, which are simply not available on tablets as a default. And of course, laptop, very rare that you would have all of those connections, and it takes a lot of time to really switch that on and get onto a network. There's some research from Google which also helps us understand how these devices are different. The key statement from Google in this research, which was focusing on multi-devices, on the multi-device world, is this, which is context drives device choice. That kind of summarizes how we are using and will continue to use different devices. And what's really important is to understand what does that context mean. It comprises of the amount of time, and which is being shown here, amount of time you have or need, the goal you want to accomplish, your location, and your attitude and state of mind. So quite a few factors to define your context, and in that situation, what device would work best. There's lots of information in that report. We'll quickly just skim through that. Computers keep us productive and informed. Smartphones really keep us connected, so really the communication device. And tablets keep us entertained. But that's a very interesting word that they have used when they have published this report comparing these devices. If you look at this box of the tablet itself, in which it says the context is primarily used at home, entertainment and browsing, unbounded sense of time, relaxed and leisurely approach. Now these are some very important points which can help us defining what kind of learning or support material we are trying to deliver. The ones that really stand out for me are unbounded sense of time, very relaxed approach. Of course, if you're using it at home, more of that is bound to happen. But still, because the area is quite large and it's flexible in the way you want to sit and hold the device, you just get that sense of a little bit of freedom when you are working on a tablet. There's more research. This one is from Adobe, which is comparing how do we use tablets versus smartphones. What's interesting is a lot of people are reading books and news on tablets. Books are not featuring anywhere on smartphones, as you would imagine. But again, kind of substantiating what Google's research was saying, a slightly leisurely sense of unbounded time, so you can spend time on doing slightly longer, bigger tasks on tablets as compared to smartphones, of course. Alan, that brings me to a point where I need to check with you if you have any inputs based on your recent discussions.
Yeah, in terms of usage scenarios, it was actually quite interesting to watch presentations at the recent Learning Technologies in London, where the minute a presentation started, phones and tablets came out. Some people recorded the presentation, some people took photographs of the slides, some people made notes on their tablets. So again, you saw the devices being used in a very practical manner. I'm talking to a travel company that's got about 2,000 travel reps based internationally at various holiday destinations, and the only way they have of reaching them is going to be the tablet. So yeah, I think there's lots of excitement. There's lots of potential uses being challenged and brought up. So exciting times.
Brilliant. All right, that leads us to this important question: why are we even thinking of e-learning on tablets? Yes, tablets are becoming important. They are becoming an important part of the enterprise mobility movement that you might be seeing in your enterprise and elsewhere as well. We've had clients who ask us in the last 2-3 years, can you make our legacy e-learning work on iPads? And mind you, iPads has been typically their device that they want to go to, though it has changed in the last 12 to 18 months a bit to also include Android tablets. But yes, for most of them, a tablet means an iPad. In fact, I think there's research which suggests that, a forecast that suggests that by 2016, iPad would still have more than 50% installed base. Can we create our new e-learning in HTML5 so that it can work on iPads as well? Can we have our e-learning work across devices? And that's been increasing, from PCs to tablets to smartphones, all sorts of devices. And we say yes. At the same time, we ask them, but why? And that's why it is important, and we'll come to some of this more important reasons why you could look at delivering e-learning on iPads. And some of the good reasons that we have created solutions for, and clients have kind of given some of these reasons. Making e-learning accessible to mobile workforce, very similar to what Alan was just mentioning about the travel organization. Sales staff are constantly on the move, very difficult to catch them. Making it available on devices like these is just one of the ways they are trying to increase the uptake of that e-learning program or training program. Carrying e-learning with them may help in supporting just in time. And of course, the field staff which is going out and they need some support when they're stuck. If they have something which is available readily, that's going to be wonderful. Improves the efficiency of their call, doesn't duplicate calls, essentially saves cost and improves customer satisfaction. Supplementing e-learning with support material or social/collaborative elements. Now, the second part, the social collaborative elements, is a slightly more advanced element that you want to include in your programs. But yes, just including support material could be very simple. It's very similar to possibly putting on product brochures and sales presentations, etc., on devices like these, and essentially we let the sales guys use them before, during, after the meetings. And providing it on tablets will improve uptake in employees' personal time. Slightly cheeky, but yes, that's a reason that's been cited sometimes, that yes, people might just do it when they're traveling, when they're at home, if they have an hour available, because they're not able to give that time during their office hours when they're office. Very importantly, for us, the way we look at it, why e-learning on iPads or tablets? Technically, if you think of it, mobile learning is nothing but one of those types of e-learning. E-learning is electronic learning delivered through any electronic device. Mobile is one type of electronic device, so technically mobile learning should be a subset of e-learning. But to look at the various things that you can do with mobile, which are not considered to be part of e-learning so far, at least the traditional e-learning that we have seen for the last decade or so, did not include a lot of those elements that are mentioned on the screen. So in a way, e-learning becomes just one of those things that can be done in mobile learning. To us, doing e-learning on tablets is kind of a gateway to mobile learning. And why I say that, there's a reason why we're saying that, and we're saying that the research that we had supported with ASTD and towards maturity, both kind of points towards slightly lower numbers for adoption of mobile learning. It's been kind of 30–35% on average in US and UK, which is not, brilliant, the kind of potential that mobile learning has, and so there are several reasons to that. But what ASTD research also brought out, very interestingly, was that for right or wrong reasons, tablets are becoming the drivers of mobile learning adoption in a large number of enterprises. So maybe it's the ease of using the same programs that are already available, which is e-learning, and putting them onto tablets kind of takes away some of the barriers. So kind of breaking the, let's say there are 10, 20 barriers that you are fighting against just by doing some things on tablets, because you're using existing material, it's the same size, you might actually craft it in a similar manner. You are reducing your challenges that you need to tackle at one time, and which in a way is a good thing, possibly a good stepping stone to get started with mobile learning. And our intent really with e-learning on tablets is to get clients started with mobile learning in a more confident, sure manner, and doing something which is going to deliver value in the long run, and not just by converting everything to mobile devices, even if it doesn't make sense. And we'll consider some of those in design considerations that we'll get into. Alan, is there anything that comes to your mind which kind of correlates with any client who's really seen moving from e-learning to mobile learning via this route?
Yeah, I think just before I answer that, Amit, there's been a couple of well, comments about could you talk a little louder. So for those of you who've asked that question, it's been passed on. Yeah, going back to the adoption and usage, I think somebody also talked a question came up about, isn't this performance support, and how is it going to be used? I think it's basically how you design it and what you design it for. Using mobile devices outside the workplace is also being talked about from the perspective of, I can use this to, let's say, do some compliance training so that it doesn't interfere in my work day at the airport, on the train, in transit, without having to take out and boot up my laptop, etc. A lot of us, and I travel by train, I see a lot of people using their phones, and I use one as well, but it's a little small. Amit has just got a bigger screen, and I'm aiming for that too. But we're actually using it a lot more to do stuff in downtime, which otherwise we didn't do. So I'm afraid my reading has gone to hell, but I'm up to date with my email.
Incidentally, my reading has increased
on the device.
On the device because of the Kindle app that's available on smartphones. And as you said, yes, I do use a phablet, which is much better than a 4-inch or a 5-inch phone. All right, thank you, Alan. Let's move on to designing e-learning for iPads. Now, this is not a session on design principles, etc. It's more of design framework, and essentially not a design framework to be precise. It's kind of framework to create mobile learning, and most of them apply to tablets as well, and we'll clarify how. And at the same time, a lot of design considerations, points that we need to be keeping in mind when we go for creating e-learning for iPads or converting e-learning for iPads, whatever be the case. The first of the frameworks that I refer to is the 5 moments of learning need by Dr. Conrad Gottfredson, where, of course, you know this, when you're learning for the first time, wanting to learn more, when trying to remember, things change, and when something goes wrong. The last 3 are typically suited to be addressed by a mobile device. You are essentially in the flow when you are possibly working, and that's when the last 3 would typically happen. And a smartphone would be a better device to address those. But come to think of it, a tablet would actually work well for all of them. You could use it for the first 2 as well as the last 3. So given we are clear about the purpose of what we are designing, the tablet might just be suitable for all of those. Shadowdill, in his book Learning Everywhere, talks about 4 types of mobile content. Converted content, essentially any e-learning or learning material, anything that you have already available, if you want to deliver it on mobile devices. Could be a checklist, could be a manual, if you so wish, especially if you're talking about tablets, it might work well. And of course, any existing ILT programs which you want to possibly put on to mobile devices. And remember, here we are saying mobile means smartphones as well as tablets. Business processes. Now, this is one area which is kind of aiding the L&D department in kind of leveraging what the enterprise mobility movement is doing for the enterprise. They're buying lots of tablets and trying to make a lot of business applications available on those tablets. Now, since you have the devices available, it is just a matter of time that you also start using it for learning and performance support and other things. But yes, ERP, CRM applications, etc., they are getting onto these devices. And I could not locate a research which I do remember reading some time back from Forrester, which talks about more than 66% enterprises would be supporting business applications on tablets by 2016. I'll try and dig that out. If anybody has ready access to that, please do share. Social and user generated. Again, some of those elements which can be brought in, and of course devices like mobiles and tablets are helping us do a lot more on those fronts. And things which are uniquely mobile, things like augmented reality, gaming applications, etc. You could have zooming in, zooming out with your fingers and rotating them. There are things that you can do which are uniquely suited to devices like these. And you can choose which ones do you really want to use in your situation. There's another framework that's been created by Clark Quinn, which is called the 4 C's of mobile capability, which essentially captures what all you can do on a mobile device. Obviously, content, the media that one interacts with; capture, which is essentially capturing information that you may be capturing intentionally, or it is capturing on its own, like the locations that you visited, which might be, which the phone might be doing on its own. Processing information, so you can be more, it can be more easily understood. Essentially doing something which is typically involves some sort of processing capacity from the device itself. And of course, communication, you can use many more things to communicate. You can have images which are being sent, you can have video communication, obviously you can have others. But the key aspect here is, of course, that all of these are things that you can do using mobile devices. Let's get into some very specific design considerations. Some of these I'm sure you have already looked at when you've done any other form of learning design as well, but they may have a specific way of being implemented or used when we're looking at designing e-learning for tablets. Relevance, of course, extremely important when talking of adult learning. We don't learn just for the sake of learning. What's in it for me is very important. So that's something that we all know from experience. We need to ensure that's done. But when you're doing it for tablets or even for mobile phones, if you want to do that, granularizing it and making it searchable could be extremely relevant. Like in this example, we have small short video clips of the product features and details available through Upside LMS, and videos pop up. You select any of those and simply play it on your iPads. It can help space learning. You can decide a plan which is possibly kind of helping support another program, which could have been an instructor-led training program, or it could be a simple repository where your learners and staff simply go and search for a particular thing that they need. Because the devices that we're talking of the use is very much defined by the context in which the device will be used. Typically, the time that is available may be not very huge. 5 to 15 minutes is very good. On a smartphone, 5 minutes is probably the upper limit. Embedding in the workflow is something that can achieve really wonders. And now that you can carry a device in the workflow, it is also possible. So if you can think of creating programs which are, while they are helping your staff do their task, they're also helping them capture things, learn in the process itself. This is an excellent example from Emirates Airlines called KIS. Incidentally, we also have a blog post on this on our blog if you would like to see a video that's been included there. It's not a program that we did for them, it was published. But yeah, they have used Windows tablets and essentially built in the workflow in that program called KIS. The crew is able to address their guest queries, people who are on the flight, in terms of if they are members, privileged members, then they can know status, they can get upgrades, they can put in their choices, whatever food choices, if it's a long flight, etc. So those are normal operational things that you can do through this. But at the same time, what this application does, it allows the crew to note points which are to be sent to the management or to the immediate boss, or notes to themselves. So that's a brilliant thing to do. There are things that you possibly think of when you are in the flow, and then you miss them. So even just if you want to make notes for reflection later on, it's a brilliant application for that. Consistency, of course, you don't want, as people switch from one device to another, you don't want people to be having different experiences. HTML typically would give you a more consistent experience, but if you have other requirements and if you want to go to the app route, you may want to look at the LinkedIn iPad app, which is a hybrid app, and it's been very widely regarded as one of the best apps created for consistent experience. Personalization is a very important theme when you're designing anything for iPads or tablets. These devices are by nature quite personal. You do carry them with you. Elements that you can build in programs which can make the programs or build in those features of personalization could be marking favorites, having discussion forums. People would want to comment on things and get others' views. So something like the forums on Upside to Go that we have, which could be useful when you build programs and deliver them on tablets. Again, since these devices will sometime get into areas where there is no network connectivity, and if you want your, let's say if the audience that you are targeting is your field sales, and they go into areas where there is no connectivity, you would want offline access to material. So again, this is an implementation of Upside to Go for a client called Zangro in the UK, where they store PDFs and which are essentially guides to different products that they have. And if there is no network, it's much easier for their staff to access those documents offline. Augmented reality QR code, it's again an example from the same client where we have QR codes printed on bottles of cleaning agents, and if you scan those QR codes through your phone, you would get a video which is essentially a how-to video. How do you use that product, and that would explain to you visually in 1 minute how do you use that product, which is quite fantastic. I mean, in terms of just-in-time support and also taking care of visually communicating to the kind of staff that would be using those products. I think it just works very well. But then the point is augmented reality and scanning these things, etc., are affordances that are available in mobile devices. Even in tablets, you may want to use something like this if the situation permits that and really benefits from the use of such elements. Responsive design, that's, I'm sure you've heard a lot about it, especially when it comes to e-learning now. Responsive design is, though not a very new concept, I think it's been around for about 2 years, but it's still in its infancy, and that's my thought around it, but it would become a major development process. Now, it's a great concept, but needs to be implemented well. Why I say that is because there are things that need to be considered carefully for responsive design, like the most important one would be the instructional design that you do for the different types of programs. Now imagine delivering a program on a tablet, on a PC, on a mobile phone. If that's your objective, that it should work on all of those different types of devices. The context in which those devices will be used, we know that would be different. Now if that is the case, the objective with which a learner would be accessing that content would also be very sensitive to that context, and how much time they will have available to do certain things, etc. So instructional design needs to essentially satisfy the objectives of all the scenarios in which that content will be accessed on different devices. And that's easier said than done. I won't say it's impossible, but yes, it needs to be done carefully, and we should not jump into responsive design blindly unless we have reasons to believe that this will work in our situation and we need it. As we go along, I'm sure we'll see more and more programs being done in this manner. Some of the other issues as of now with responsive is that it does load a lot of content. So if you are creating the same thing for, let's say, PCs to tablets to phones, and if you access it on a 2G network or a weak network on your mobile phone in some remote area, you would be forced to download almost everything on your phone before it displays everything that you have to see on that phone. I'm sure this is going to change a bit, but yes, as of now, that's how it works. And few simpler ones in terms of design considerations. Touch, of course, very important. The moment you move away from PCs and onto tablets, you need to plan for touch navigation, swipe, pinch, etc. Do ensure that you design for fat fingers. That's really 44 by 44 pixels is kind of guideline. That's the minimum size, because otherwise people would not be able to interact with the content that you've given. Do plan for the virtual keyboard, because it does pop up and take overlaps over the content area. So if you have important instructions and navigation hidden below that, your staff and learners would not be very happy. Rollovers is not a possibility in when you do things on tablets. So you can possibly convert those things to be single touch and double tap kind of thing. So a single touch can give you a pop-up or a rollover kind of thing, and a double touch can give you a full click. With smaller devices, the 7-inch tablets, you may want to hold it vertically, and I'm sure if you've seen the iPad mini, you've noticed that it can break the keyboard in two so that your thumb can reach. Similarly, when you do e-learning programs for devices like that, you may want to consider all the areas that they have to kind of click possibly are there, especially in interactivities. Landscape versus portrait, we've typically seen that clients would want to lock the display mode to landscape in most cases because of the way the PCs used to look, especially when we're talking about e-learning being delivered on tablets. So they would want to retain that, but if you are leaving it open and want to have both landscape and portrait, it's best to optimize for both so that a user does not get a sub-optimized experience when they switch. Of course, you don't want to see this loading sign too often, so please do optimize images. That's very important. And yes, if you're doing compliance programs, which again would be a necessity, especially when you're talking of sales executives being trained through such devices because they never get time to really complete their training programs. Otherwise, you would have to do some LMS tracking mechanism. You can have app-based solutions, or you can have simply have them access the material when they are connected. So either of those, either you have an app-based solution which essentially stores data for uploading into the server or the LMS or the LRS, whatever you are really connecting to when you are connected. And video. Video is a very versatile media format that we believe is on the rise once again, and it's actually returning to training. The multi-device thing is actually bringing video back because it kind of works on all sorts of devices. It looks very neat on all devices. We just need to be very careful that we think about the smallest device first and then kind of gradually think about bigger devices instead of thinking of the biggest one, because then the typography might just look unreadable on smaller devices. So that's really the set of design considerations that we would like to pose, and we move on to what really can be done if you have a lot of e-learning that is available which you want to put onto tablet devices. And while we say doing mLearning on tablets is the gateway to mobile learning, or e-learning on tablets is the gateway to mobile learning, enabling your e-learning, in our opinion, is your starting point. That's the easiest, least resistance. You have the material with you. The cost is also not going to be huge if you were to choose that to be your starting point. Now this one is almost the free options. There are in fact quite a few browsers which allow you to play Flash-based content onto tablets. Not that they give you the best of the experience. You know, as you can see, sometimes the response is slow. Audio sync can possibly go off. Some interactivities may be lost, or they can possibly work very slow. So it is not really you know, the ideal solution if you are going on a big initiative to launch a lot of programs on or create new programs on for tablets. But if you want to test it, try it out, do a pilot, and if you have very simple programs that won't face any of these issues, you would want to try any of these. You know, I think most of them do have free versions, free plugins available. But if you were to look at converting some of your e-learning, let's say from Flash to HTML5, Lectora is a good option. The latest versions of Lectora have some wonderful features. Or if you want to publish it directly as an app, even Flash itself can help. Flash, I think CS5 has functionality which can help you publish directly to iOS and Android apps. If you have old Captivate courses which you want to put into HTML5 now, again the new version of Captivate, which is 6, can help. It's also great in terms of highlighting areas that are not supported in HTML. How brilliant is that? What it does is, let's say if there are rollovers in your Captivate program, the original Captivate program, it would highlight that these rollovers need to be reworked because in HTML you may not have a rollover. So it kind of helps you build those programs, you know, in an easier, quicker way. Articulate programs if you have and you want to publish them into HTML5, again Articulate Storyline is a good option, except for obviously you need to redo the interactivities in Engage. So those are some very quick conversion options if you were to think of converting existing e-learning. If you have to author some new e-learning, again the favorite ones are Lectora, Articulate Storyline, Captivate, 6. There's a new tool coming in from Adobe called Edge, and this, I think the logo is for Edge Animate. Then of course Rapid Intake, Claro, and even Upside Learning has its own responsive design framework that allows to publish to different types of devices. So if you want to outsource, you can obviously look for those kind of frameworks. If you finalize your requirement to be only one type of devices that you want to deliver, any of those tools can help. Okay, so these are some closing thoughts. We have about 5 minutes with us. mLearning, in our view, is really inevitable. E-learning on tablets could be your gateway to mLearning, and mEnabling e-learning could get you started with mLearning. With that, if I can invite any questions. Alan, I know you have been tracking questions and responding to almost all of them.
Sorry, I was on mute because my typing was getting a little frantic and it was disturbing. I think I've answered mostly everybody's questions. There are still a few that need to be answered, so I think if we can possibly run through. A lot of questions have been on the authoring tools and what kind and what's the best, etc. And I've been saying that we have a blog post which covers about 15 of them, and Amit covered some of them just now as well. So I think if you go onto our blog site and have a look at that, that kind of gives you a snapshot of everything in that. Amit, there was one question which I saved for you because I don't have the answer. And it comes from, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, Michael Lesiowski. And he asks, is tin can a buzzword or current stable standard? What are your thoughts, and are your customers asking about tin can?
Yeah, a very interesting question. In fact, it is slightly better than a buzzword now. We implemented tin can in our courses about 6 months ago, but strangely, there's not been a lot of demand as of now for tin can. We find that people who are creating tin can, the folks at Sticky and others, have been obviously evangelizing that it's a wonderful concept. Probably the first time that we have something which can track everything that we do, which should be counted as learning. So the promise is phenomenal. The implementation so far, yes, there are early adopters, and I think it will continue to evolve. So I would say it's slightly more than a buzzword. People are getting to implement it, but the movement is not as strong. But yes, it's going to grow from here.
Okay, there was another question from Melanie Roy. Do we need to redo flash activities in Lectora?
I think the interactivities need to be redone because it won't really publish them directly to HTML. So some of those interactivities would have to be redone. Most tools where you're looking at conversion, the interactivities are the main points which need to be redone. The rest is really about, if there were very heavy animations, even those need to be seen. The good thing about Lectora there is that you could possibly, especially for animations, you could simply publish them as videos and package them into HTML files if there was no interactivity, assuming that. But for interactivities, we do need to create them separately.
Yeah, I think there was a comment from Theo Leonard who says he's a bit disappointed we didn't spend more time on designing for iPads. Theo, I guess it's difficult to try and cover everything, but certainly get in touch if you need anything more on that. There's lots of articles on our blog again, which you can refer to.
But yeah, I think I would understand where Theo is coming from. And yes, we do understand that we have not allocated as much time as we should have. Probably we'll have a follow-up webinar which is only focusing on the designing. The reason why we have not done in this, Theo, is that we find that a lot of clients are still not very clear about why should they consider any e-learning or mLearning at all, e-learning on iPads or tablets or mLearning. So the confusion about why they want to do it, why certain devices are different, what is the best way to go about it is probably the better starting point. In my view, any design decision that you take would be influenced by these. So I can understand, and presumably you have all of that understanding, so you would have expected more on that. We would definitely try and include that in one of our future webinars, hopefully very soon.
Okay, I'm trying to see if there are any last minute ones. Jim is asking, any thoughts on Articulate?
Articulate Storyline, I think it's a fantastic tool. You know, delivers a lot better output than what was available in Storyline, has a lot of flexibility, and just looks great. I mean, if you see some of those samples available on Articulate Storyline website, it's just amazing. It's been done very well. They have really created a good product. So if anyone is looking to do HTML-based e-learning and have options to publish it as an app or run it through an offline player that Articulate offers, I think it's a great tool. We do a lot of work in Articulate now because clients typically get into those cycles of highs and lows of work amount, and the team size management is really not so easy for them always.
Okay, I don't know how we're doing for time. There's some smaller questions which I think we will answer and put up on our website, on the blog site.
We can take up a couple of more if you find anything which has been a recurring theme across questions.
I think we've covered that in terms of the authoring tool and stuff, but Julia Bell makes an interesting point. She says, please limit the use of Flash as it is inaccessible to learners with visual disabilities. And again, we need to consider that, obviously. Lots of nice thank yous. Great compliment on the slide design and presentation. We'll pass that on to the team. Any thoughts on Articulate? We've answered. I think we kind of covered mostly everybody's questions.
Brilliant. So happy. I mean, this is probably one of our few webinars that we have covered all the questions. But again, what we'll do is we'll skim through these questions and see if we haven't, and try and post some of these answers online as well onto our blog. And in any case, you have our Twitter IDs, or if you want to get in touch with us in any other way, just drop in a mail to our accounts, and we'll respond.
Amit, do we have sorry, I'm trying to just find that a lady had asked us to go back to a slide. No, sorry, I can't seem to find that. Oh, can you please go back to the screen that shows how to convert Flash content? That's from Jane Middlehurst.
Okay. Also, just before I go there, there is a survey, which I'm sure you would have noticed written there on the slide. If you could participate in that, give us some feedback, that would be wonderful. Help us improve our presentations. You talking about this?
Yeah. I think Jane's thing was, can you just go back to that on how you can do this?
Right, so essentially what we were discussing here was converting existing e-learning, which is typically in Flash, Captivate, or Articulate output. So if you were to convert them to HTML, Lectura is a good option for Flash to HTML. And Captivate, Articulate, they have the new versions which handle it pretty much in a very decent manner. Of course, interactivities are the only areas which still need to be worked on separately to really get a good output.
Yeah, and I think the last recurring question was, will this be available? Yes, it will be available online for everyone to have a look at and download as well.
I think you will get to see there's a question that's coming in from Nancy about is a link available for the survey. I think once we close this, then the link will be available. All right. If
Yep,
it's
I
okay,
think.
we really appreciate you being here and spending last 1 hour with us. I hope you learned something from this, and we were able to clarify some of your questions. We do intend to include more designing elements in our future webinars, but this recording will be available, and if you have any questions, do feel free to get in touch. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks. Thanks everyone for joining us. Bye now.
Bye.